Good afternoon, St. Philip's College. My name is Anida Rihom, and I'm the financial literacy coach for St. Philip's College. And today we have with us Mac Anthony and Ashley Adams, who work with Credit Human. And today we're going to be presenting, well, not me, but Mac will be presenting on spending and the importance of creating a budget. So with all due respect, here is Mac Anthony.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. This is part 2 of our 4-part series created especially for St. Philip's College. This is our spending plan workshop. Just like the title says, we're going to go through our spending plan worksheet. Although we prefer to call it a spending plan rather than a budget, because the actual definition of the word budget is something that comes off as a little cold, confusing. It's definitely driven by math. And that doesn't sound like fun at all. So we defined the spending plan workshop as a spending plan that's not meant to be a strict budget. Instead, it's a guide. This is a guide that's going to help us to become aware of how we spend our money and hopefully assist us in taking control of our financial future and ultimately reaching our goals. It approaches budgeting as a lifestyle, not as a task. It's math for sure, but it's driven by needs, people's needs, real needs. Like Nita said, my name is Mac Anthony. I'll be your speaker today. We also have with us Ashley. She's the account manager from Credit Human. She works with your school to set these events up. Can you say hello, Ashley?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ma'am. And as always, of course, before we continue, a very special thank you to St. Philip's College for their partnership. We think it's really great that you go to a school that values your financial health. And of course, a special thank you to Anita for her help in setting these events up. Anita, we could not do this without you. Thank you, ma'am. Our objective today is always to continue our mission in trying to share suggestions for becoming more aware of how we spend our money and bettering our financial health. Author Idowu Kowanahana says, when you do the things in the present that you can see, you are shaping the future that you are yet to see. I love that. Credit Human wants you to know that we're available to work with you to make things happen now to better your later. And if you have another bank or another institution, that's perfectly fine. It's our hope that you're going to look into their services as well. Look, we know that we can't always know what's coming, and we don't want to promote being paranoid, but we do want to promote being prepared. We might want to always plan for something coming, and if it doesn't happen, that's okay. We're ready for it. It's all right. We can make it through. Stress is born from not knowing, from surprises, from feeling lost or not in control. We believe awareness and being prepared are essential in planning, and that's the way we're going to find our way around and through any stress. We're going to be ready for those surprises, ready for the planned future. Let's say we are planning to start our next semester on time, maybe. Guys, this actually happened to me. My grant check didn't come in on time. Classes were coming, and I was getting closer and closer. I still couldn't buy textbooks. So life happens sometimes. In those days, I was never ready for surprises. In those days, it was a surprise. Heck, in my younger days, I would more call that a shock. I was really not prepared for that. Listen, years of experience I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to pepper throughout today's webinar so we can hopefully bring attention to awareness. And keep in mind, now I have a plan B and a plan C. I'm ready to go just in case. I know that sometimes in life we might have to jump from the plane, but I also know that the fall is much more successful when I have a parachute. So today, as always, we hope to share a few Credit Human insights, a few ideas that might help us along the way, hopefully to become a little more aware of where our money is going, but making sure that it asked our permission before it left. That would always be nice. Is planning and saving and spending fun? Yes. Okay, maybe just to people like me, but it doesn't have to be that hard either. Businessman Robert Kiyosaki said, don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning. So kudos to all of you for joining us today, for your willingness to get excited about winning over financial fears. All right, let's go ahead and start with looking at our objectives for today. Like I said before, we want to understand where our money's going. I always thought I knew where my money was going, and then I suddenly realized that it was going places without me. After I did this worksheet the first time, I was blown away. We're going to also identify our slack. And for those of you that don't know or don't remember, slack is the money that we have left over after we pay all of our bills and our living expenses. So income minus expenses equals our slack. We're also going to set a little savings goal. We're going to take a look at that so that we can understand another layer of planning. So this can help us also increase our financial health. All right, so let's start with the components of financial health. Credit Human breaks down our finances into 3 basic components: Component number 1 is managing day-to-day finances. This is somebody who's spending less than they make. So component number 2 is the resilience to weather ups and downs. Someone might have a savings cushion for emergencies and access to affordable credit if they need it. We'll talk more about affordable credit in one of our upcoming webinars. And then we have component number 3, long-term opportunity. This is somebody who's dedicated to their future. They might be planning for retirement, planning to buy a home, planning for graduation, or today's world simply trying to make sure that they have a security for their future. Slap stress with a handful of slack. That's my mental bumper sticker. More slack, less stress. Remember, we told you the first session, the slack's the money that's left over after we pay all our bills and our living expenses. But we also told you there was no number that was good for slack because all of us have different needs. And that's kind of why we're here today. How can we end up with more slack? All right. Now that we have established the components of financial health, let's get a virtual worksheet out and get started. We're going to get an idea of our money, see where it's going so that we can be a little bit more aware. All right, first, a quick overview of the worksheet itself. On the front, we're going to walk through the income and expenses. This is going to help us gain an awareness. This can tell us exactly where our money is going or gone. And then on the reverse side, we're going to walk through when we find out how to figure out our slack number. We're going to show you how to do that. And then if we have money left over in that slack, we're going to try to set a goal from that. Again, I know this was an eye-opener for me when I first completed the worksheet. It makes it very visual and very easy to see exactly where every penny is. All right, so let's start with our spending plan. First thing we're going to look at is the total monthly net income. Keep in mind, these numbers that we're going to use today, they're only for demonstration purposes. They represent whatever our expenses might be. In general, this worksheet will work for us no matter what our situation is. For this workshop, we're going to use a total net income of $2,500. Remember, when we're using our own worksheet, we're going to also add in other income just in case, the child support, Social Security, maybe you've got a part-time job. Remember, we're going to be using the net income, which is after deductions, the health insurance, everything else will be taken out. This is the amount that is actually deposited into our accounts, not our gross income. All right, this first section is the housing expenses, the total amount that we might spend on rent, campus boarding, any other home-related recurring expenses such as utilities. Keep in mind, this is the money that we spend on a monthly basis. We're not going to be filling out each one of the items, but I do want to fill out a few just so you can see how to utilize the worksheet. We know that some of the following dollar amounts don't sound realistic. Let me put that out there first, but let's just play along, okay? It's just a sampling to introduce us to the worksheet. All right. So we're going to start out first with mortgage or rent, maybe dorm room charges. That's going to be $1,000. $1,000 for rent or dorm room charges. We've got the gas and electric and utilities. Maybe this could be for a book for us to make it a little more relatable. Remember, we're not locked into our options. These are your expenses, and you can change things as you need. So the payment here we're going to start out with is $120. We've got the telephone for $50. I was wishing that I could find that carrier. $50 for telephone. And then internet cable. Maybe this is the total for the different streaming services. Maybe we have paid apps that we have to pay for. That's going to be $100. And then we'll end on this section with water for $50. Again, maybe this could be a fee that you might need to pay for one of your classes. I always laugh because sometimes I would get those fees and I'd be like, I don't remember that fee coming. But as you all know, these things can happen. All right, once we have this section filled out, let's do a subtotal, and we're just going to write that number down next to the green box that says housing expense total. So for us, we're going to have $1,320 for our total there. All right, now let's enter our debt expenses. This is going to be where we're going to put all our loans, any money borrowed, credit cards, all our loans. And remember, credit cards are basically loans as well. If you notice, there's an extra column here for payoff dates. We believe that if we know our payoff dates, this is what's going to help us to have a better idea of how much money we have left on each of our loans. For me personally, it's a great motivator, so I can see when I'm almost done, and it pushes me to sometimes pay a little bit more just to get off that wagon, if you will. I'm going to start today with auto loan, and I'm going to add payoff dates. I have a payoff date of 12/31. We don't put any years on this. I want to make sure that we can keep this perpetual going forward, so remember that. The payment is going to be $20, $220. Then we have the credit card. The payoff there is going to be 12/1, the payment of $50, 12/1 with a payment of $50. And if you've got one credit card, many times we have another credit card. So the payoff on that one's going to be $11.15 with a payment of $25. Maybe a student loan. Most of us can relate to that one, right? We've got a payoff date of 3/1 and a payment of $100. $100 for the student loan. All right, again, we're going to take that little section there. We're going to do a subtotal. We're going to write that number in the green box over the right-hand side for debt expense total. For us, that's going to be $395. $395 is our debt expense total. All right, then. Now let's enter our living expenses. Living expenses are typically lifestyle expenses. We're talking haircuts, specialty coffees, manicures. This section could also include educational needs. Maybe it's our textbooks, electronics, parking passes. Nobody parks free. Items along that line. Keep in mind these are essential, moderately essential, and even sometimes people could argue non-essential. All right, if we live off campus and we commute to class, then we're going to need gas as something essential. So we're going to start that off with $75 for gas. Of course, if we have a car, then we also need that auto insurance. That's going to be $55 for auto insurance. And then groceries, let's do $200. Macaroni and cheese and top ramen ain't free. Wish it was, but it ain't. All right, how about the clothing and laundry? That's going to be $21. I wish I could find that place for $21 for clothes and laundry. And then beauty for $35. And we don't all spend on beauty. Like I said, obviously I don't. But keep in mind, this could also be maybe like a monthly bus pass so you can get to campus on the bus. They're usually $35 to $38 right now. So that could be that. Again, I'm showing you how you can change things around to fit your needs. We're going to look at entertainment right now. Entertainment, we're going to do $75. Maybe that's our streaming services. So we've got a collective streaming services there. How about dining out? Maybe this is how much we spend on pizza or tacos for the whole month. We're going to spend $100. I wish I could get away with that too. All right, let's end this with lottery, tobacco, and alcohol for $130. I first have to say these are not necessarily good things for students to indulge in. All right, that's my disclaimer. These items always seem to start a conversation. Listen, if it's not a part of your lifestyle, then we wouldn't want you to include it. But if it is part of your lifestyle, then we would want to include it because it's still an expense. All right, again, we're going to take this section and we're going to fill out the subtotal here. We're looking for the living expenses total on the right-hand side, and we're going to enter that there, $691. All right, now, we're going to add up our three subtotal expenses so that we can enter that number in the total monthly expenses. That's going to be box B at the bottom there. So we have $2,406. All right, now we can see where our money might be going, right? So let's flip that virtual worksheet over so we can see the formula for discovering what our slack is. Again, remember this money is left over after we pay all our bills and our living expenses. Keep in mind there are two things that can influence our slack: how much we make and how much we spend. And we know that an increase in the money that we make creates a cushion. And we know that if we spend less, we're also going to add to that same cushion. So make more or spend less. And the importance of the cushion, of course, is to increase financial health and to decrease financial stress. All right, so let's take our net total from the front side. Remember, that was $2,500. We're going to enter that in box A. Now, let's enter our total monthly expenses and put that into box B. Remember, that was $2,406. And that could be food, shelter, textbooks, whatever we're spending money on every month. Remember, these numbers are just for illustrative purposes. All right, we're going to take our income minus our expenses, and that's going to be our slack. So we have $94 for slack. After we paid all our bills and our living expenses, we've got $94 left over. Is that good? Remember, like I said before, to some of us, this is a good number for slack, but for others, it may not be. Objectively, though, it's still better than a negative $94 for sure. All right, so now we have an idea of how to find our slack. Let's set ourselves a goal with that slack. Goal setting, of course, is the process of identifying something that we might want to achieve. We're going to look at how much do we want to save and for how long will we be saving. All right, so let's decide what our goal is first. Let's say the goal is to save for a cushion. Again, remember, this could be anything you'd like to save for. I'm going to set the savings goals for $2,000. Again, this might not be enough cushion for a comfort zone for some people and not enough for others. So remember, everyone has a different level of comfort. All right, now we have to determine a time frame for saving the money. So we're going to say 12 months. Some of you are already doing the math. We're doing the $2,000 divided by 12 months. That's going to give us, we need $167 every month. We got to save that in order to reach that savings goal. All right, now that we've established a goal, let's see how that works with our actual Slack. You all already see this coming, don't you? We need our Slack total to be more than our planned savings total in order for this to work. All right, so let's take that Slack number. That was $94. Our planned savings total was going to be $167. So we can save $167 from $94 Slack? No. I wish math worked in my favor that way, but it won't. It's not possible. We're already starting out $73 less than what we actually wanted. All right, let's see where we stand now. There are basically only 3 possibilities that can be our outcome. The green light, that's the good plan. We have more Slack than our planned savings need. Then there's the yellow light that's considered adjusting. We have the same amount of Slack maybe as our planned savings. And then there's the red light. And this is where we might need to create more Slack. We have less Slack than our desired planned savings need. So where do we seem to be right now? Our situation seems to fall more into the red light, right? Need to create more Slack. Maybe even a little bit of that yellow light, consider adjusting, right? Maybe we could create more Slack. Now remember, we said that in order to increase our Slack, we could do this by making more money or spending less money. But remember, earning more money isn't always the fastest way that we can adjust our Slack. That might include looking for a new job, going for a degree like you guys are, maybe getting a certification. These all require an investment of time. What if we wanted to do things faster? Remember, what was the other alternative? Spending less. We can utilize this option immediately. And keep in mind, we've been monitoring and adjusting with a worksheet, so that's how we knew we didn't have enough Slack. So now let's do a bit of adjusting. And by going back to the front of our worksheet, this is where we can get that help from. Let's go back to the front of our virtual worksheet and let's reevaluate our expenses. Warren Buffett said, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. I've been doing that all backwards throughout my younger financial days. The front of our worksheet is where we can make adjustments on our savings plan, maybe if we need to, so that we can alleviate any financial stress that might be coming our way. We might be able to spend less maybe on our beauty. Again, I know that I have. But remember, I said this could also be our bus pass to go to school. We may not want to remove that because of that. But remember, this is a full page of options to adjust, and we can make any option more relative to ourselves. All right, maybe we decrease our groceries budget. Instead of $200, we set that for $100. Maybe we found things to eat that were a little less expensive, right? So that was going to add another $100 to our Slack. What about happy hour? Many people go after that lottery, tobacco, and alcohol as the first choice. But listen, what if we split the difference and we maybe make that $65? We can still add $65 back to our Slack. Every little bit's going to count. And mind you, that was just 2 adjustments, and we're already able to set another $165 back into our Slack. I love the way Credit Human thinks, and I love this program. We don't want you to give up anything. What we want you to do is to make your choices count. We call it thoughtful spending. Let me share a little story with you. Many, many years ago, maybe there's another many years ago, age disclaimer, I was in a tight spot just like this worksheet demonstrates, and it showed me that I needed to consider making adjustments to my spending. So I'm thinking about ways to save money, and as life would have it, my cable box went out. They told me to go to one of the substations and they'd go ahead and replace it for me. So I go in, I'm waiting in line, maybe about 45 minutes. I was tired. There were 2 crying babies. I'll never forget that. And on top of it all, I don't think there was any AC. Maybe there was just too many people in the room. And it's San Antonio hot summer. All right, I want you to all know this little bit hotter. I want you to know that it was very, very hot. Can I emphasize that enough? And I'm telling you all these details because I want you to know exactly where I was in my head. I finally got up to the counter. They said they didn't have any new boxes. They said that none of the other offices had replacement boxes either. And in fact, they would not be on back order. And so there's no set delivery date. And then they're just looking at me for a reaction. I was just stunned. Again, I'm sharing you the story because I'm talking about adjusting our expenses, and life was making adjustments for me. So I cut the cord with my cable company, and I just turned my cable box over, and I had the service disconnected. My contract expired, so it made it kind of easy. I slid the box across the counter, and I could feel the tension in my neck. But I kept telling myself, listen, this is a perfect opportunity for me. They gave me way too long to think about this as I waited in line. I had the time to think about an alternative plan. My cable bill had been going up and up till finally it was over $220 a month. Nothing special on there. So how was I going to live without cable? I'm going to tell you, I was going to live without cable with less financial stress. That's how. It's like pulling off a Band-Aid. It hurt when you first snap it off, and then the pain subsides. But I bought a streaming service adapter, and then I paid maybe around $7.99 when I first got it. That was per month. That's a personal savings for myself of over $200 a month. That really, really helped out my Slack. And guys, I have never looked back. All right, so now we can see how we can reduce our expenses like the examples we just mentioned, but there is another option we might use to modify our savings goals. We wanted to save $2,000 in 12 months, right? What if we decided to save for 18 months or 24 months instead of the 12? It's going to really lower our monthly savings need. All right, so listen, no matter which way you choose to do things, regular planning may include monitoring and adjusting as we need it to reach our financial goal. And as we know, nothing is life uncertain, but that uncertainty doesn't have to worry us if we're planning along the way. So guess what we've been doing already? Guess what we've been doing? We started planning. We became aware of where our finances were because we're doing this worksheet, and we started planning from there. So guys, Congratulations for recognizing the need for awareness and for starting a plan and for attempting to lower stress. When we use the spending plan worksheet, we realized we didn't have enough slack through planning. It's important to be aware of our finances so that we can be more successful at planning. So maybe you see the pattern here. It might be planning. Planning is the pattern. So now let's keep it going. If we're using our spending plan worksheet, we can enter those numbers into our eMoney Manager. eMoney Manager is specific to our Credit Human members. If you don't bank with us, that's okay. Check with your financial institution, see what they might offer that's similar. Our spending plan worksheet and eMoney Manager, these are great tools to help us monitor and adjust, setting realistic savings and spending goals. Remember, we don't always have to give anything up. We just want to make sure that we can make a few adjustments if we need to so that we can have more slack, which of course means what? Less stress. And less stress means that we might be able to better handle other things in our lives. Credit Human members may already be aware of the eMoney Manager financial tool, the Go app we call it. For those of us who aren't familiar, it's used to establish, to monitor, and to adjust our spending plan to include optional alerts. eMoney Manager is specific to our Credit Human members, like I said, but remember, maybe your financial institution offers something similar. The eMoney Manager keeps your day-to-day tracking right here on the dashboard, and it does so. So it makes it easy for us to track for spending, for planning, for reaching any of our goals. My favorite part is that spending. And a few features are, for instance, we can see our transactions by category. We can set these up to display by week or by month. It's got a great analyzer tool. It helps us to use the percentages of utilization. This is from our own set parameters, mind you. And notice here the spending shows $96 for groceries. Another example, the transaction history. The transaction history allows us to look at the list of our recent activity, debits and credits. Here, for example, we see Target for $5.79 for personal. I wish I could make it out of any store website for under $6. That's not even usually the shipping, right? All right, like I mentioned, it can also set up the alerts. And personally, I love alerts. Anything that will let me know when I'm spending more than I wanted to is great. No thinking. You set it up and you go. And if our alert is set too low or too high, we can adjust it at any time. The alerts and the different ways that we can personalize the way we set up our dashboard, this allows us to follow our spending habits the way we want, what works for us. And they're an important part of our planning, and we know that planning works. We know that planning works. We can't keep singing that importance of planning. Think about it. Because we completed this worksheet today, just for this workshop that we're working on, we're setting savings goals. We're already 4 times more likely to be financially healthy. 4 times is good. This could also be someone who simply puts $5 each payday, set it and forget it little account off to the side, again, with us or with your institution. Maybe someone who's planning 5 years out, they're going to be 8 times more likely to be financially healthy. And someone who's planning ahead for the future, for the retirement, for the personal comfort zone, for the after graduation plans, they're going to be 10 times more financially healthy, 10 times, just by planning. Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. All right, now, let's move on to another resource. One of my favorite resources for planning. It's a great place to help us when we're ready to start planning. The Financial Health Centers. Everyone can get that one-on-one guided support with our financial health centers, whether we need or maybe we just want financial health guidance. These locations are perfect for us. I would contact them for their hours. to make sure that you can get in. You can do walk-ins as well. Traditional branches are designed to help with standard transactions, money in, money out, cashing checks, things along those lines. And financial health centers can do these things as well, but as an added benefit, they also have more time to focus on us and our specific needs. We don't want you to think you have to utilize our financial health centers. It's just a free resource that we offer. Financial health centers were designed to be able to spend quality time with each one of us, and we can talk in person or virtually, and this can help us get back on track, stay on track, or maybe start a new track. And we don't have to be stressing about our finances to visit with one of the centers either. Maybe we just want to plan for the future. And you don't even have to be a member. We can't emphasize this enough. You don't even have to be a member. Anyone can walk into a financial health center and talk to anyone about budgeting for their next semester, how to save money, improving our credit scores. That's something you might start to consider now. Buying a car or any other financial interest someone might have. That's how important we think it is to help others. We don't even care if you're a member or not. We just want to do what we can to help people with their planning and helping them become more aware. Think about it, free information and guidance in no judgment zone. Someone whose only objective it is to get everyone into a better financial place. And please share this information with your friends and family. It's free for them as well. Don't keep us a secret. Just remember, standard branches are not like financial health centers. So if you want that specific one-on-one help, member or not, please go to one of the financial health centers. Guys, these resources and the different ways that we can use them, that's what helps us to create awareness. And the more aware that we can be about our financial goals, the better our chances are at reaching them, no matter what they are. And if you don't consider Credit Human, I can't say this enough, that's okay. Consider your bank or your credit union. They may offer some sort of program that can actually help with planning as well. Our financial locations, like I said, are on our website, and you can schedule an appointment there. Just remember, standard branches are not like the financial health centers. So when we're looking for that one-on-one help, member or not, please try to make it into one of the financial health centers. All right. If you know someone struggling right now or someone who just isn't sure of what to do next, I've been there. Please let them know about these free resources at our financial health centers, again, member or not. As always, guys, keep in mind today at our webinar is a special thanks for attending. We're also offering to fund the initial deposit requirements if you'd like to open a savings account or a checking account, your call. Remember, this could be your set it and forget it account to save off to the side. We've got a Bitly that I'm going to be sharing with you shortly. If you enroll today, we're going to waive any required deposits. We're going to fund the account for you free. Free is my favorite price. And it's an actual honest to goodness 100% free account. No minimum deposits, no surprise charges, no minimum balance, and no direct deposit required. No kidding, it's actually free. Look, if you open an account with us today, that'd be really great. But that's not why we're here. We're just trying to share a few ideas that might help to beat down that stress. We want to get more slack in everybody's life with these things like free savings checking accounts, free information, free visits to your financial health centers, member or not. Please remember, it's not important where you start with Credit Human or not. It's just our hope that you do start. Check with your bank or your credit union. See if they offer something that could help you with your financial planning. Please consider planning to save as well as planning to spend. Just think of the possibilities. Guys, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. As always, we want to hope everyone leaves today with a bit of information, some encouragement, and maybe a few ideas. This is that Bitly I talked about that was created. You just enter this Rate Credit Human into your browser search box and select enter. It takes about 2 minutes to complete. This is very important to us, guys. If your feedback is valued, it's what we use to design our future programs. Please make your voice count. When assigning, it's going to be 1 through 5, 1 being the lowest rating and 5 being the highest rating. The first drop-down menu allows you to select St. Philip's College students. The drop-down menu is alphabetized. The second Bitly that I'm showing you here, Join Credit Human, is going to allow you to become a member with us with no direct deposits, or you can go to our website and open an account, but unless you use this Bitly address, there will be deposit requirements, just an FYI. We call this Bitly sign-up process 1, 2, 3 because it's just that easy. If you use this Bitly, there's no promo code necessary. Your account will be funded for you. Got any issues with it while you're working with this, please make sure to reach out with us, even if it's just to say, listen, did my account open? We'll be okay with that. And then this third option that we're sharing with you right now is the link address for our spending plan worksheet that we just went over today that you can get on our website. And I believe it actually does math for you. I like things like that. You guys have a wonderful message on your website under values. St. Philip's College is committed to building individual and collective character through shared values, including respect for all, community engagement, and collaboration. Kudos. These financial health webinars are our commitment to respecting everyone in our shared communities and helping them to better future, doing what we can to make savings and thoughtful spending a natural part of everyone's life. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions now, we're going to be going into the Q&A session. This is where I'm going to release my screen here, and Ashley will come back to us. Hello, hello.
Hi, Mac. Thank you. So we do have some questions. Anita provided some questions that are common that students ask, and then we came with some questions as well. I'll just go ahead and read those and we will answer them. So the first question is, I bank at another financial institution. Can I still use the spending plan worksheet to create a budget?
Most definitely. I'm going to jump on that one. Sorry. Most definitely. You can use this no matter where you bank. And we've actually had people from some of the seminars that we do, they'll download it and they'll help to use it with their daughter, their mother, their brother, and they become an advocate, which is great. It's not, it says Credit Human on it, but it's for anybody to use for any place. So taking advantage of it, like I said, when I first did it, I was like, where am I spending this money?
Yep. And like Max said, he shared that link. So it's just credithuman.com/spending plan. So you can download that, like you said, no matter where you bank. And the good thing about that PDF, like you mentioned before, it does the math for you. So if you put in your income, you adjust your expenses, it will tell you, it will calculate your slack, it will show you, and it will also help when you're making those adjustments. So if you notice that you don't have enough left over, or it's not a number that you'll feel comfortable with, you can go and adjust your budget, and it'll do that math for you again. So a great tool, and it is free and available to anyone. Okay, so I have another question, and it's kind of a two-part. Should money that is not guaranteed be used as part of my monthly income, for example, tips? And also, if your paycheck is not consistent, how do you budget? So
Can I jump on that one too?
Of course.
I was a waiter for many years. That's what got me through school. I loved having the tips. I eventually decided not to be a waiter because I like consistently knowing what I'm going to get every Friday. Because in waiting tables, if you've ever done it, some days are really good and some days aren't. What I ended up doing was I took a full 30 days worth of tips in my head and on paper, figured out how much I made each day, figured out how much I made each week. And so then I could kind of balance out and get a total of approximately what I needed to have in order to save. So it can be a little fluctuating and it can be a ballpark, but it actually gets you a really good little plan going that way as well.
Mm-hmm. And another good thing with that, especially if you're using like a tool like the spending plan worksheet, you can always put in all of your consistent bills that you know the exact amount. That way you also know how much you need to at least cover those, and of course adjust your living expenses. This budget can be a living budget. It does not have to be exactly set each time. You can go and adjust if you know that your income has gone up or different. You can go back and adjust that amount to see where you are. Another thing, let's say your budget is inconsistent, not so much because of tips, but because you're hourly and your hours really fluctuate. A good tip to budget with a type of, if that's your situation, would be to go back and look at the last few months, or even if you've worked there for a year, look at your last year and look to see what your lowest amount that you earned was. So your lowest check. And if you use that amount when you budget and you still have money left over, then you know that if you're getting higher amounts the next week, or if other weeks change, that you can cover your bills and living expenses. And of course, if you made more than you budgeted for, that's just extra slack in your pocket. So you can choose to do with that as you will. You can add that back and say, hey, I'm going to use that to go out, and you increase your going out budget, or even say, hey, I want to start saving that and put it away in a savings cushion. So having extra money is never a bad thing. But at least if you notice this is the lowest amount that you ever, you made, at least you can still cover your living expenses. So, and usually over time, you might get an idea or an average and just use that number. But again, it can be a living budget, and just adjust, monitor, and just be very active in it and know where your money is.
I love the way you mentioned to figure out, because you've got the things that are not variables, the things that are constant. And when you figure out how much you owe, then you know approximately how much you need to make. And so you can see, you can kind of break that down too. I've done that before. I've figured out where I need to go home with at least, let's say, $60 every shift, because that would make me enough money to pay the bills that I already owed and maybe have a little pinch on the end too, so that I can have a little extra money. But I'm telling you, just do the worksheet one time and you will be amazed.
Awesome. Okay, next question. Where can I access the eMoney Manager tool? So again, that is a tool specific to Credit Human. However, your bank or financial institution may have a similar tool. So I definitely would recommend going to their website and checking that out as well. As far as Credit Human, if you are a member, you can use it through your online banking with your laptop, or even on our Go mobile app. You do have access to your eMoney Manager tool as well.
No matter where you're banking with us or not, go for those alerts, people.
Yes. So another question, is using credit bad to make large purchases? So that is, so the short answer, no. Credit is not bad. Don't be afraid of using credit. However, what we want to make sure is that you are making thoughtful choices when you are spending. So it's really to look at the impact of using credit. Do you have a really high interest rate? Are your payments actually making it so you can't afford to pay your bills, your actual bills, and you're trading off things to use it in credit? So in short answer, no, using credit responsibly is not a bad thing, and it is okay to make large purchases. Just be aware, again, we do talk about this later on in a couple of our upcoming webinars for you guys, and we will go more into that. But I don't know if Mac, you want to add more to that.
I think when I finally realized how much extra I was paying someone to use my credit card, I finally really put it in perspective, especially when I was younger and my interest rates, my score was horrible. These were the days, I am 64, so these were the days that nobody knew their credit scores. You know, now I have the Credit Karma app, again, not the end all, but it helps me become aware of where I stand. And knowing that's so powerful. And like Ashley said, we're going to get into that in more depth in one of our upcoming credit webinars. But just the fact that I know how much extra, once you figure it out, once you see the money, and again, on that credit one, we're going to show you exactly step by step where you can see how much extra you're spending, it will wake you up. And so then I got to make the call. And like Ashley says, you know, is it always good? Not necessarily, but it just depends on where you are. And if it's going to affect you negatively on the other side as far as paying your bills, like Ashley said, then yeah, maybe it's not a good call. Maybe you want to wait until you get that credit score worked to a really good number and you know it, and you go in there and you say, this is the credit score that I have. That's going to help you out a lot, thousands of dollars on a car, for instance.
Mm-hmm. And another thing with that, just know all of your options. Is this a purchase that needs to happen right now? Does it need to happen today? Is this something that we can use our spending plan for on the backside where we set a goal? Maybe the large purchases, like, for example, when Mac did the setting a goal, let's say the purchase is for $1,000. Can you save that over, 6 months or a year? And based off of your Slack, can you afford that? Would that be an easier thing to do than to pay a lot of that, the money toward the interest rate and not going to the actual purchase? So just know your options, make the best choice for you. Everyone's different. And of course, if you have access to affordable credit, then it may be a better option for you.
Good.
Okay. So the next question is, what is the difference between fixed expenses and variable expenses?
Well, it kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier, where the fixed expenses, those are your bills. These you get every month. You know that it's due every month, and you got to pay those every month. Variables might be, I wanted to go to get a pizza. That doesn't happen all the time, but things that can change, things that are not set in stone, those are going to be the variables. And the fixed expenses are going to be the ones, like I said, those don't change. That's why Ashley's talking about in the worksheet, if you enter everything that you owe, those are fixed, definite things that you owe. That's going to help us figure out how much we need on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, so that we can pay those debts.
Mm-hmm. And just another example of a variable expense would be, it could be your CPS energy bill. You may know that this bill is coming each month. Of course, we know our CPS energy bill is coming each month, but really it can vary depending on if we're using our same AC more, if it's the summertime, if there's a winter storm and we're using our heat. So all of those things. But again, if you are planning for that, you can still add that to your spending plan. You can look at your bill over time, maybe get an average, or even if you said, hey, this is the highest it's ever been, and budget for that. And of course, if your bill is a lot lower and you have extra money, hey, it's always a good thing to have extra.
I've completely spaced that, so that's really good. And then I also sparked another memory. You can actually get it set to, I have a cousin that did this, where they do, the energy company actually figures out how much you spend per year, and then they'll say, this is how much you're going to spend every month. The bill never changes, whether you use a lot of heat or a lot of, it doesn't matter. This is how much you're going to use. So if that helps you to better define your finances, then that's something you might look into as well.
Awesome. Okay, I think we just have a couple more. I think we have about 2 more questions. If I was going to visit a financial health center for a consultation, would it be beneficial to take the spending plan worksheet with me? So yes, I mean, it's always great if you've already done some of the work and you want to then talk about it, or even see where they might be able to help look and ways to adjust, or even if they also have copies there. So they do have copies of the spending plan worksheet at each financial health center. So if you weren't even at that point and you just wanted to bring in your bank statements or your bills, and you wanted to sit down with somebody to actually help you create that budget, they can do that as well. Again, no matter if you're a member with us or not, it is a free service. But yes, if you've already started the work and you've created a budget and you just want to talk about maybe setting a goal, it is a great tool to bring with you as well. Okay, and it looks like we have one more question. What if I always feel like I have no Slack? What can I do? So I think we've all been
there.
So it really depends on what you've done previously as well. Have you really sat down and taken a look at both your income and your expenses? Have you worked out and have you realized there's no Slack? Or are you kind of just living day to day and just spending money as you go, and then you always feel like you run out of money? So there's just different ways to really be aware of, what expenses you have, what your income is. You can usually try to go back and maybe again make small adjustments. Maybe you're using our tool and you notice that you, like Mac had mentioned, you're spending $150 each month going out to eat or entertainment, even just slightly, just making a small decrease in that amount. Maybe it's $100 instead of $150, and that's $50 back in your Slack. Or maybe you have a bunch of subscriptions that you don't even realize come out of your account each month. I know me personally, I had a gym membership that I was paying each month, and I noticed that I very rarely went to the gym, but I kept that subscription, going, and realizing how much money over the year it cost me when I wasn't even utilizing it. And that's just an example. I mean, it could even be that you have 8 different streaming services on your TV that you pay each month. Maybe cut it down to use the 3 that you actually use. So just little things like that, even if it's a small amount, that small amount goes back into your Slack. And then from there, you can start building your savings cushion. So there are a lot of options. And again, another a great thing to do would be sit down with somebody at a financial health center and really take a deep dive into your expenses, into where your money's going. And I think, it can really be an eye-opener on some of those little expenses each month that you don't even realize are just coming out of your account.
I have a friend that I did the worksheet with, and begrudgingly, he did not want to do it, but I made him do it. And we came up to this one point. He was paying for a service, kind of like a Gmail service, from a company that's not even in existence anymore, and he'd been paying it for the last 2 years, 3 years, and I was like, that's $35 a month you've been spending on this. I don't even know where the money's going because they don't exist anymore. So somebody's taking your $35. But when you sit down and actually start to figure out things and go through your bills, please don't feel challenged. Don't feel like you can't, because that's not a good way to start. We're going to start by saying we can't, because we can. Again, like Ashley said, it might be just $5. It might be $1. The whole idea is just to keep building off of that. And the fact that you guys are even here and interested in thinking about doing something like this now at your age, kudos. Yay for you. You're already ahead of the game. They didn't have anything like this when I was your age. I would have never gone through some of the pitfalls I went through. Of course, I wouldn't have some of the stories to share with you either. But I wouldn't have gone through any of the pitfalls that I went through had I known more about planning and trying to be aware of my finances. You can't plan without knowing how much you owe. The awareness is one of the most important parts of planning.
Awesome. I think that it looks like all of the questions we have today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will have 2 more in the series coming up, so be on the lookout for those.
Look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Anita, thank you so much. And Ashley, of course, thank you, my dear.
Yes, thank you, SPC Tigers, for attending. These are great tips. The Q&A was amazing. I mean, I feel like it touched a lot of me personally as well, paying for a gym membership and not going. But remember, these tips and resources, they're free, so please utilize them. If you're definitely interested in going to a financial health center, please do so. I bank with Credit Human, and it's been amazing. So utilize what you have in front of you, especially that they're free resources, you guys. So thank you so much for attending. Y'all have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.